All right, Bert, where do we begin with this Patriots team? What's your biggest thought on this team right now?
My biggest takeaway was just how overmatched they looked when I went back and watched it again. And I think, watching Mac, I think, was a microcosm of the entire thing. And I don't want to put the whole thing at Mac's feet, but it's sort of what happens when you ask him to carry the team, Yeah. And, he's just not built that way. And I talked to one of the Cowboys guys after, and I asked him, his opinion on Mac. And he said, he called him Cooper Rush Deluxe. He said that what would be ideal for him, he's like, if they set it up like we set it up for Dak in 16 and 17, where we had a great running game, a good offensive line, you had all this help around him, he'd be fine. It's like you're asking him now to be something he's not because of your deficiencies on the line, because of your deficiency at receiver, and just seeing the Cowboys come at you in waves, right? Who you're rolling out there at right tackle, the low guy that you acquired right before the season, from the Vikings.
Yeah.
I mean, he got on the strip sack, he got his ass kicked by Dante Fowler.
Yeah.
That's not Micah Parsons. That's not DeMarcus Lawrence.
You got beat by everybody
else. That's not
else
Doris Armstrong.
Yeah.
That's their fourth edge rusher that beat you like that. And then you see the guys in the passing game that were making plays. Luke Schoonmaker, Jake Ferguson. It's the depth of talent, right?
Yeah.
And that's a roster that has legitimately, I think, 3 future Hall of Famers on it. And it's early with Micah Parsons, but I think it's fair to say if he keeps this up, then he'll be at that level. And then Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. And one of those Hall of Famers didn't even play.
Right.
And they were able to make up for it, right? So it's startling the depth of talent. They lose. I mean, we're showing Deron Bland's up there on the TV. That's the guy who replaced Trayvon Diggs. So this is a Dallas team that had lost some pieces. And we were sitting in here last week all taking shots at Jerry Jones, the GM. Seems like he's done a pretty good job to me. Now you can argue over hiring coaches and all that different stuff. But what I heard here for the last week when we were comparing Kraft and Jones was, well, Jones is meddling. Well, Jones has his hands in personnel too much.
Yes.
And he does. He does.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a pretty damn good roster.
They've always had talent. That team has not lacked for talent over the years. They've had a lot of good players that have played on that team.
They're top heavy. They're top heavy, no doubt.
Since they were a Super Bowl caliber team.
But not even top heavies, though. Deron Bland's the guy who replaced Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah.
Dante Fowler isn't Micah Parsons. They've got depth. And that's the thing that just jumped out at me. It's no Trayvon Diggs, no Tyron Smith, no problem at all.
And they're still worlds better than what the Patriots are, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
really
no
that was an utter mismatch.
There are probably a half dozen guys in that roster. They're paying at the top of the market. 2 of those guys were not out there on Sunday. And Tyron Smith and Trayvon Diggs.
I mean, top heavy based on DeMarcus Lawrence's contract, Dak's contract, CeeDee Lamb. But they got true first round talent everywhere.
I mean, Bert, you could have caught that pick that Mac threw on the play.
Just bad ball.
But he almost had another pick too.
I almost had 3 more. I almost had.
He played well. That's the point.
I don't want to put him down. I'm just saying that Mac was truly terrible in this game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that should get lost in that. And I know you're saying there's a lot of things that are being put on Mac.
But here's the overarching thing is
he was downright horrible.
The overarching thing is he can't carry a team.
No, he can't.
He's got to stay within the system.
No, he can't. That is now definitive, and there's never going to be a change in that. And I know what people say, why would you write him off now? Give him more time. You don't have all the answers yet on Mac Jones. This answer we know. He's never going to be a guy who will lift up a team, make the team win games that they otherwise couldn't. He's not going to be that guy. And I don't think anyone ever really expected him to be that. But
so this is something I said to another Cowboys guy after the game. I said, everything looked hard for Mac, and he agreed with me. I said, everything looks hard. If it's off schedule, everything looks really hard. How does it look with Josh Allen? How does it look with Patrick Mahomes?
Easy.
How does it look with Justin Herbert? How does it look even with Joe Burrow, who isn't otherworldly physical talented? Joe Burrow makes things look easy. Everything when you take him off schedule, when things aren't perfect around him, things look really hard. And that is the completion to Kendrick Bourne where he threw across his body. They completed that, but that looked really hard. And there are other quarterbacks that make those sorts of things look
No, I
easy.
say it all the time. I said it just
and that's where
yesterday.
the physical component of this comes in.
I said it Monday. Mac Jones needs things to be perfect, but the problem is he plays in an imperfect sport. And at that position, things can't be perfect. They can't. And listen, I get it. They can't block for him. They can't get open for him. He has been put in a very difficult position.
Yeah.
He has certainly not risen to the occasion. In fact, he's gone the other way. He had a meltdown on Sunday.
I mean, and that's why, like, when we talked about the Niners in the summer, I was like, the Niners sort of think they got Mac Jones anyway. And they did, right? Like, because I think, like, what Brock Purdy is doing right now is what Kyle Shanahan.
What they had in mind.
What they had, what it would have been with Mac Jones there now. They went the other way. They swung for the fences. That was a bad swing and miss by them. But they sort of wound up with it anyway with the last pick in the draft. So, and this isn't to denigrate Mac Jones. I just think too often we talk about that position, and Zoe, you know this, like it's either yes or no. Mac's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Like he's not terrible.
No.
He's not great.
No, you need good talent around him, and
right.
I think if he plays within the system, like that system is built off 3-step, 5-step drop, and ball's got to be out. It's when you start running around and try and make things happen, and I think every throw he makes is contested, and that's part of the problem. Like he's got to be perfect. And that's a hard thing to do in this league is be perfect. You mentioned Josh Allen. It's great to throw the ball to Diggs when he makes a double move and he's like wide open, like 40 yards downfield. Like those are easy throws to make. Mac can make those, but you're never going to get the opportunity to make those because you don't have the speed. You don't have that type of speed on the outside.
It's one thing like that. Like when we're looking at college quarterbacks, you have to remember almost every week, like Josh Allen at Wyoming had to be the best player every week, right? Like nothing less. Like, I have to be the best player. I have to be Michael Jordan out there for my team every week. Mac Jones never really has had to be that. And when you ask him to be that, it looks like it did on Sunday, which is, I think, the fundamental thing here when you're deciding on fifth-year options and extensions and all of that. And again, it's not to denigrate Mac Jones. Mac Jones has shown us he can play, but he's never going to be the guy that elevates people around you. And I think, unfortunately, because of the guy who came here before, like because you had this idea that Tom Brady was a sixth-round pick, you think you maybe thought
Brady conditioned them we can win a different way.
You thought you could turn anybody into that. What you ignored was Brady became something he wasn't coming out. Brady became like pretty physically talented. Like he could really rip it.
He's tough too,
and he's tough, and he's big, and there were things about Brady that were really special that I think sometimes people ignore because like, oh yeah, he's just a sixth-round pick who almost got benched in college. And he was obviously, I think we all know he was a lot more than that. Like, that's why I think the Burrow comp is sort of apt with him. Mac, to me, is, again, like a player who can be a really good player if things are perfect around him. If they aren't, then it's another story.
All right, so what should they do? If they're thinking about their future, the team, what do they do
At
with
the
Mac?
position?
At the position.
At the position.
Are they picking up the option? Are they riding this out through the fifth year? What are they doing?
I would pick up Daniel Jones is the cautionary.
That's the problem.
Where the Giants didn't pick up the option and then
they signed him.
That's
their mistake.
Right. Like, and
if they had picked up the option, wouldn't they
the
be
flip
okay
side
right now?
So the flip side, the flip
that
side
is the flip side.
The flip side of it is like if you don't pick up the option, you do what Tampa did, or you do what like Washington or
what's the deal in Green Bay? Because they did something with Jordan Love.
Tampa basically made
it was unique.
Well, yeah, Jordan Love they added a year, but it was the same sort of like. So if you want to look at it like what they did with Jordan Love was they took the price of the fifth-year option and they basically spread it out over 2 years. Yeah. So he's going to get his money. It just basically guaranteed the money for him, and it spread out the cap hit. But the amount of money they're spending on Jordan Love over the next 2 years is as if they had picked up the fifth-year option. Okay. So basically the same thing. It was that was more or less like a bookkeeping thing, which you could do with Jones, definitely, if you want to spread it out over 2 years. I would probably pick up the option just to get more runway. Mm-hmm. And then I would I would go into the draft and I would say, you know what, we're going and we're working all of them out and we're going to bring them in for 30 visits and we're going to do all the work until Mac proves to us that he's something more than what he's shown us through 3 years. And this is going to be a really deep draft, too, when it comes to that position. So I'm of the mind that you keep taking swings until you get it right.
Absolutely.
You just keep taking swings.
Absolutely. Keep drafting guys. And I am not – here's what I would say, Bert. I'm not picking up the option. In fact, I would be open to them going in another direction next season with a veteran while they continue to draft and find their guy.
The question is, like, would you be just as well off with somebody like Baker Mayfield? Where
Yes,
where
you
like,
would. You'd be fine.
Where like the strings of being a first round pitch aren't attached. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of strings that come with being a first.
That's an interesting one.
I'd take
Yeah,
That's
Baker
an
next.
interesting one because there was interest in him.
And I think Baker can be a pain in the ass, but I would take Baker next year as the
Bucks are 3-1
as the gap guy.
They're 3-1.
They're 3-1.
Yeah, and I would take him as the gap player while you're still trying to figure out who that guy's going to be, because I don't think Mac Jones is it. And the longer you delay that process of going for the next one, the longer you are stuck in purgatory with 6, 7, 8, 9 win years where you don't make the playoffs.
I think where people
That's
are
where you
fooled.
get stuck for a very long time.
Here's where I think the NFL's changed too. It used to be that you could win with Joe Flacco, with Eli Manning, with Russell Wilson as a second-year player. I don't know if it's like that anymore. Like, I just don't. Like, and you guys know me. Like, I used to be the one who you don't need a number one receiver. Things have changed. Like, the game's different. And in the AFC now, like, if you look at it, it used to be, even when Brady and Manning were great, right? Like, you could get in your head, all right, maybe some other team knocks one of those guys off and we only have to beat one of them on the way to the Super Bowl. Now, you go down the list, Mahomes, Lamar, Herbert, Burrow, Allen. I'm probably forgetting some more. Chances are you're going to have to beat 3 of them in a row, right? And you're going to get it in these situations in January where, like, who's got the biggest gun, you know? And I just think the environment's changed enough where until you have one, you keep taking swings at it. And so, you know, hey, if anybody has free time on Saturdays, start watching Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix and all these different kids. You probably won't get Caleb Williams or Drake May, but, like, I do think, like, the Patriots have to be open to the idea of we're going to keep swinging at the quarterback position.